Hey, this is a little bit around for this Sunday because it's another subject that I wanted to talk about. So I kind of split my time up into two. And this one's about letting go. Uh, it's kind of akin to the idea of forgiving, or at the very least, letting something go that's been bothering you, upsetting you. I talk to a lot of people that have trauma stuff. And one of the stories that I like to use is an old Zen story. To me, it sums up a lot of what this has to do with the human condition. The story is about the two monks that were coming to a stream, and it was a time of year when the water was really high. The thaw, and the stream was high, and the normal place where they would ford across the water was very treacherous. And there was a young lady there who was trying to get across and couldn't, and she was very distressed and upset. So the old monk looked over at her without a second thought, went over, asked her, you know, "Can I help you?" And she nodded, and he threw her on his shoulder, and he proceeded to get across the water. And on the other side, he put her down, and he went about his way. The young monk was aghast. Oh my God. He was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe it. The old monk had broken all the rules. He had talked to this young woman. He had actually physically touched this young woman, carried her on his shoulder, no less, across the water. How dare he? And as they left the stream and they kept, going on up the way, the young man was muttering under his breath, and he was mad, and he was stomping, and he was kicking rocks, and he was frustrated. And this must have went on for a good 20 miles that day. And finally the old monk looked at him and he's like, "All right, what gives? What's wrong?" And the young monk let him have it, both barrels at once. "How dare you? You broke the rules. You broke your vows. You went out of your way to talk to a woman. You went out of your way to touch the woman, no less. Oh my gosh, how dare you? How could you do that? This is horrible. I can't believe you would do something like that." And the old monk looked at him and he said, "Wow, that's very interesting." And the young monk's like, "What?" And he said, "I put that woman down 20 miles ago, and you've been carrying her ever since." To me, the idea behind the story is a lot of times we do things maybe out of necessity or what we feel is necessity, or sometimes things are done to us that we don't like. Maybe sometimes they're bad, awful, cruel things. We tend to hold on to them and cling to them for a long time after it's done. Sometimes I will talk to a client and something very bad happened to them 10, 15, 20 years ago. And it may have been a car accident. It may have been something very traumatic. It may have been something horrible in their childhood. And I am totally at a loss when it comes to exactly each person's prerogative on why they're holding. And I have to ask questions to find out what's going on, that they're holding on to this so desperately, clinging to this thing that obviously was horrible. Um, the thing that happens is a lot of times, we will say, "Well, I can't forget this," or "I can't forgive that person." And I'm by no means telling people that you have to forgive people that have done you wrong. What I am saying is, how do you move on if you don't let it go? It's kind of like a hot coal from a fire. If you pick up a hot coal and it's burning you, it will keep burning you as long as you hold it. All you have to do is figure out a way to drop it. Some people don't want to drop it, and I get it. The thing is, though, once you realize it's still hurting you, let it go. That person that hurt you, that husband, wife, whatever the situation, way back in your past, 10 years ago, that person did you wrong. Okay. They quit doing you wrong, though, 20 years ago when you separated from them or when the situation ended. So when I was talking to one client about that, they were like, "Are you telling me that I need to forgive this person?" And I'm like, That's your choice. There definitely is someone that you need to forgive. And they're like, what are you talking about? If I'm not going to forgive this person, who am I going to forgive? And I'm like, well, who else is left in your story? Because that person hurt you 20 years ago. You've been holding on to it and hurting yourself for the past 20 years. And if you can't stop and forgive yourself now, you get caught in this ideal that you have to hang on to your pain in order to justify why you had the pain. See, here's where it comes into a lot of times people will be in a situation and they will be doing something that they could have made a different choice. And they will take that pain with them for years and years down the road. And as they do that, they keep telling themselves, well, if it was that easy to do, I would just do it. And I understand it's not easy. And yes, it is. See, this is again one of those things that's part of the dialectical behavior stuff, the idea that two things that are opposite can be true at the same time. It's difficult to let go because somewhere in you, your psyche doesn't want it to be let go. It's been hung on to your anger or your fear or your sadness has been clung to, held tightly as this is mine. This is how I identify myself. This is how I see my world. And I have to justify why I'm so sad or so angry by holding on to this thing that makes me angry. And when you ask them, well, if you didn't have it to hang on to, would you still be angry? And they're like, well, no. And I said, so the only thing between you and not being angry anymore is letting it go. And then it gets really difficult for the person because then they think, well, then that means that I am the reason I have been this angry for the last how many ever years. And then it becomes a case of I don't want to let it go because if I let it go, it's what I've been using to justify how I've been. Now I'll feel horrible that I am doing something I didn't have to do. A lot of times people will choose to stay angry or upset or frustrated or sad because at least that way they feel right. And for some people, feeling right or justified is more important than feeling better. That's why you have to ask yourself what it is you really want. Do you want to feel better or do you want to justify how you've been feeling so that you can keep feeling it? It's your choice. To me, the obvious thing is to feel better, but maybe that's not what you want. Or maybe you're confused about what you do want. Letting things go. It's like I was told when I was a kid, things like anger, they're like bricks. And you have a bag on your shoulder and you keep putting these bricks in there and pretty soon you're walking around so stooped over and stuff you can't hardly move because you've put all these bricks in your bag and you're carrying it. And when anytime somebody comes up to you and says, hey, why are you stooped over? Why, oh, I have to carry these bricks. Well, you can take that bag off your shoulder anytime and put it down. You just have to realize that you have that option and to do it and make the choice to move on. Or you can be like the young monk. You can keep carrying your anger with you all that way when there was no reason to. Whatever it was upsetting you, bothering you, the old guy had let go 20 miles back, but the young guy carried it on. And this is where you got to take a look at your life and go, what am I carrying from the past with me now that I don't have to carry? Now maybe you have to figure out how to let that sack down. Maybe you need some people to help you get it off your back. Maybe you need to get to a place where you can understand the necessity for doing it. Maybe you need to take a few bricks out at a time, different strokes for different folks. But in the end, you don't have to carry that bag forever. And you don't have to carry your anger forever. And you don't have to carry your sadness forever. You can work to get it off of your back. You can work to get over it. Question is are you carrying it for a reason? And is that reason to be justified? And you ask yourself that seriously. Or is it a case of where you just don't know how to quit carrying it? And you need somebody to look at you and say, put the bag down. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed the story. To me, like I said, it carries a lot of meaning. It comes up a lot in the work that I do when I see people that have carried tremendous weights and burdens for a very long time and they haven't let them go. And so coming to terms with what it takes to let them go. What does it take to get that sack off your shoulder, to put that anger behind you, to put the sadness, the effects of what happened behind you so that you can start working on having a better life from this point on. Because that's what really matters. At any point in time, you have the option of changing what you do and seeing what comes of that. Now, it may not be perfect, but it will be different. And as long as you keep changing it, you will find a better way. You may not find the best way, or you may find the way that's best for this short period of time. And you keep plugging along at it. You keep working on it. You keep changing it, and it keeps getting better. And that's the hope for the future. The idea that at any point in time, you can make changes and you can make it better. So have a great day. Y'all take care, and I'll talk to you later.